the Microsoft Activision deal could harm UK gamers. This is the news that a investigation from the CMA, which is the Competition and Markets Authority, which is the UK regulator, have provisionally concluded that Microsoft's proposed acquisition of Activision could result in higher prices, fewer choices, or less innovation for UK gamers. Some of the conclusions include an in-depth independent investigation provisionally finds deal raises concerns about cloud and console gaming. The merger could make Microsoft even stronger in cloud gaming, stifling competition in this growing market and harming UK gamers who cannot afford expensive consoles. Deal could also harm UK gamers by weakening the important rivalry between Xbox and PlayStation gaming consoles. So they're not too keen, basically, on the acquisition, and they go on to say to essentially kind of offer some kind of provision almost, or suggestion, that Call of Duty might not be involved in the deal, and that might be a way that they get around this, because obviously Call of Duty is a AAA franchise. I think that's something that they're really worried about for the competition and making sure that games have choice and things. What do you think about this ruling? Do you agree that this harms UK gamers, or do you think that by having Call of Duty under Xbox's control rather than being over, across both platforms, do you think it's a good thing or a bad thing?
I think harming UK gamers is a bit of a exaggeration. I don't think it's that dramatic, but I understand where they're coming from, because Call of Duty is such a massive software seller on the PlayStation side of things. You check the MPD numbers each month, and like whatever Call of Duty title it is that year, that's always in the top spot or second place. So the thought of that becoming an Xbox exclusive is obviously going to send ripples throughout the market and potentially, degrade PlayStation as a system, a video game console system that people go to buy. Even though Microsoft have said that they're going to honor a 10-year deal at least of Call of Duty coming to PlayStation, they could turn around after year one and say, Call of Duty is now going to be on Game Pass, at launch. And so when, somebody comes to decide what console they're going to buy, are they going to buy an Xbox where they're going to get Call of Duty for free if they pay for Game Pass every month, or they're going to buy a PlayStation and still have to spend £70 or whatever it is on this new on the new Call of Duty game as well. So yeah, I understand the concerns, but I can't see them backing down Microsoft on this at all. Whether, as you say, Call of Duty becomes separate to the deal, I don't know, but I think it still presents some issues as well, because you've still got some pretty huge titles, Activision titles as well, in that kind of lineup. So yeah, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, just on that cloud gaming topic there, that's one aspect that the CMA are really concerned about as well. Just to quote them, they argue that Microsoft already accounts for an estimated 60-70% of global cloud gaming services, obviously with Game Pass. It then buying one of the most important game publishers would substantially reduce the competition that Microsoft would otherwise face in the cloud gaming market in the UK, which is exactly what you said. If they put Call of Duty on Game Pass, all of a sudden they've got this huge, amazing offering that Sony doesn't have, I suppose, which would make it very appealing to gamers. Aaron, as a PlayStation fan, how do you feel about this potentially?
I'm just not a fan of consolidation in general. Consolidation, it might not, maybe harms is a bit of a too harsh a term to put it, but it definitely feeds into what I believe to be Xbox's wider plan, which is a race to the bottom in terms of the value of games. They like to sugarcoat it as, we'll make it free on Game Pass. Games are more accessible than they've ever been, and while Game Pass remains a great deal, I'm firmly in the camp of someone who believes that the price of Game Pass will see go up this year, potentially just before the release of Starfield, so they can kind of like stealth that price hike. The cloud gaming angle is an interesting one, because I understand what the CMA is saying, because cloud gaming isn't really an area that PlayStation is interested in. They've tried some things here and there. That PlayStation have got their VR corner, Microsoft have got their cloud corner, but this is exactly what you want from two platform holder titans like PlayStation, Xbox. You want them to try different things, because increasingly in this generation, and we had it when the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X released, it was, under the hood, these are very similar machines. So I think it's important that these consoles are more differentiated than ever. And I think the cloud gaming angle, Microsoft have been doing a really good job with that so far. But then with a game like Call of Duty, is that something you necessarily want to play over the cloud competitively? I'm a bit of an outlier in that I'm someone who pays the full whack for Call of Duty every year just to play the campaign, and then maybe I'll lend it to a friend, or then maybe I'll find another use for it somewhere. But long story short, I think consolidation, it isn't needed, and that I just wish that Xbox could release games, incubate games, and release them by itself, rather than having to keep on buying people, throwing its money around, and then laying off thousands of members of staff, money that it could otherwise spend developing its own games grassroots. I mean, it had Hi-Fi Rush. We saw that release at a couple of weeks ago, and the reception to that was great. It was on Game Pass. It got people talking. I don't think that in this day and age, your bog standard annual Call of Duty release is going to be able to capture the conversation that way. It's really only the Modern Warfare games that people tend to get excited about these days. Vanguard and the Black Ops series, people tend to shy away from, even though I personally like the Black Ops games. So yeah, consolidation is not for me. I'd much rather Xbox make its own games than buy the rights for other games and then cut off PlayStation players.